Let's talk about where to find climate data online, specifically the daily data, which is hard to do. The climate normals are quite easy, so I'm not going to go through that in any detail. If you just want to get the monthly data and it's not preloaded in the Essential Rainwater Harvesting tool, just type the name of your jurisdiction and climate normals, and there's a really good chance that they'll come up. Just for instance, let's do Alberta climate normals. I'm even using DuckDuckGo. There's the Canadian climate normals. And you can select which 30-year period you want to download that data from. You can search by station name, province or territory. And a very similar website comes up in the US and in Australia as well. However, if you are looking for the daily data, this has been traditionally much, much harder to find and download and deal with. I'm really excited though, in the last year particularly, a lot more websites have been popping up to make it much easier to access climate data. And I'm going to show you for sure what I found for Canada and the US. And of course, if you don't live in one of these two countries, I would love for you to add in the comments section where you get your data and share with others. This Climate Data Canada website is brand new in the last, I think in the last year. So some came out sometime in 2019. This tab right here, download, is where you can head to. And I would select the station data here. And as you can see, you are now presented with a map of Canada. You can zoom into the location, approximate location. So let's go look for data for our farm, Rob and I's farm. We're in this area here. So these little dots represent the nearest weather stations. And it's a really good idea to make note of what the weather station name is, particularly if you're not in an urban center. You can see this one's Brightview 1828, this one's Breton Plots, and this one's Winfield. So all these are really quite close. I've already had a closer look at these stations' data. I recommend, even though you can select multiple stations at once, you'll see I could download the data for all three. Because these data sets are quite large, I found that particularly cumbersome and much easier to look at one station location at a time. So we're going to download the Dakota West. You get to choose your start and end date. To be honest, I've actually found that no matter what dates you put in here, it downloads the whole data range. I'm going to put the end date of December 31st, 2019, and we'll see how much data is available. And then you'll hit CSV and process. It's pretty quick, it thinks. And there's the data file that's just downloading right now. Let's open up this file and see what is here. So this CSV file will open in spreadsheet type software, usually Excel. If you don't have a copy of Excel, Microsoft Excel, you can use Google Sheets to open this up, but there's a couple other, I think Mac Numbers will also open up a CSV file. But know that the Essential Rainwater Harvesting tool, it works in Excel. I can't guarantee how well it's going to work in Google Sheets or Mac Numbers or any of those other programs. So I definitely recommend that you have Excel and use Excel, whether you're on a Mac or on a Windows platform. You can see here that it's small. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Along the top there, each column is telling you what data is in the spreadsheet. And let's drag down how many rows are here. So you'll see there's a lot of data. 18,700 18,738 rows of data. And I'm going to write this number down and you'll see why in a second. 18,738 rows of data. And the year, which is this one, the most recent year, which is at the bottom on this particular website when you download the data, is 2016. So that's not too bad. And the oldest data is 1963. That station ID looks a little bit like a year. So do pay close attention to what your column headers are. Let's see what else kind of data. Looks like I got everything, all the daily data. There is, let's see, max temperature. There's the max temperature and the min temperature is probably here. So there's the min temperature and there's the max temperature. It looks like, let's see if there's some data in here a little bit further down. Oh, that's really interesting. This particular station, weather station, does not have temperature. It only has rainfall. So those are the kind of things you want to look at when you're downloading the different stations. Get a sense for how big the data set is, what data it includes. Not all are the same. Now, if I was looking for max and min temperature, I might look at another station. For now, I've looked at the precipitation from the 3 nearest stations. And this one is the most comprehensive. It's got the most number of years. One thing I want to point out is that there's a total rain, and then there's a total snow, and there's also a total precipitation. Which one should you use? Well, if you're in a climate where a lot of your precipitation comes in the form of snow, and you intend on trying to harvest and utilize that snow, perhaps you'd use the total precipitation number. But in most Canadian climates where we're not really going to be harvesting snow necessarily, you'll probably be grabbing just the total rain number. One other little quick Excel trick, because when you're dealing with these kind of size of data ranges, it becomes super cumbersome. Here's something that I like to do. I know that I just am going to grab 30 years of data for the spreadsheet. So I'm going to use a data filter. I'm going to turn a filter on. And what that's done is it's added all these filter options across the top. And at the Climate Data website, the way this comes through is there's actually a column with the year that's available. I'm going to select this. Now, I know I'm just going to download 30 years of data. I'm not going to try and copy more than 30. So I'm going to quickly select the 30 years that I want by selecting the right years. Okay, so that should be 30 years of data. 87, 97, 2007, 2017, right? So there's my 30 years of data. Any rows that I did not select are now hidden. And what this allows me to do is when I come over here to my, make sure I get the right one, total rain, I can select the correct number of cells. There's a couple ways to do this. You can actually just, click and drag down for 18,000 rows of data. That's awfully slow and cumbersome. So a little keyboard shortcut, Control-Shift down arrow, will take me to the next 0 range. Oops, now I'm gonna, sorry. So what happens if there's a 0 in the data set, it stops. So typically I'll have to do it a few times. You'll see right here, there's some zeros in the data set. So I'm just watching, I'm looking on the left-hand side here. I'm on row 14,000. I'm not quite to the bottom of the data set yet. Let's do this a few times. I'm still holding Control-Shift. I'm just hitting the down button. I'm paying close attention because I don't want to overshoot past the end of my data set. So here we go. I think we're pretty much at the bottom, right? 8,738. So that's a relatively fast way to highlight that whole data set. And you'll see there are some rainfall numbers in here. This was downloaded from the Canadian website, so I know it's all in metric. Left click copy is how I can copy this data. And I'm going to open the spreadsheet tool, a blank copy of it. Okay, don't forget, let me just fill this area. Okay, so don't forget the golden rules. Save as. Let's do this. Farm data. Or, yeah, I should actually do farm example. I definitely need to, I know that I need to fill in the units here. Otherwise, it's not going to really work for me. And let's go over to daily and paste in the range. Well, actually, I better do the start date. What was that data set start date? What did we say? It was January 1st, 1987. So let's put that in. What is it? Month, year, 87, 101. Right, so there's my January 1st, 1987. That matches up. Let me just put climatedata.ca for Dakota West. It's more a note for myself than anything else. Paste special. It's a good idea just to paste the values here. So there's my data. So now obviously, as the spreadsheet says, it's not going to do any of these computations until I actually put in some information for storage capacity and catchment area. Next, I want to show you the National Centers for Environmental Information, which is the U.S. Government agency for climate data, because it's also a fantastic resource, and not only for U.S. weather stations. I've found weather stations around the world and found that this website allows you to download data in both US customary and metric, and it also allows you to be a little bit more selective with the data you do download. So it's quite nice, and I've used this a lot as well. So from this website, the link which I'll include below the video, you want to hit the search tool, right? And then the daily summaries is the one that's going to give you the daily data. Select the date range. I would just keep this as large as possible. 1998, let's put 1987, 1989. There we go, that's 30 years. January 1st, apply. Search for. What I've found is that if you're searching within the US, zip codes and cities works really well. If you're searching outside of the US, you really want to know ideally the station name that you're searching for. It works excellent. And sometimes you have to do a little bit digging to find out what the station is actually called, because the station isn't always named the same as the location. So a little bit of search, you might find something like this Google map here for Canada. I'm sure there's similar ones in other countries where you can see some of the different stations. You can click on them and it gives you the actual name of the station. This Google map, again, you know, there are differences, which is really interesting between some of the different websites. But here's that Dakota West, Alberta station ID. Sometimes I've even found best luck searching with the station ID number, but the name seems to work as well. I've already got Dakota West put in here just to show you that this website works great for international data as well. And then what happens, look at that. There's actually some Australian weather stations with the word Dakota in them, so they show up. But the guy I want is up here. And when you click on this, I love how it gives you an idea of what the coverage is in the date range. So the really great coverage. You can hit on full details or add to cart, which I've already done. And then when you view your items, note that when you select the output format you want is CSV, this one. You can select the date range, review the items in your cart, you hit continue. Same idea goes here. You can do more than one weather station at a time. I don't recommend it. I find it just, unless you're an Excel wizard, it becomes really cumbersome. Here's where you can pick your units, metric versus standard. So if you prefer to work in standard units, you can download from this website. I'm going to select metric. When you scroll down, you can select the data types that you want. I would normally just select everything here, all the precipitation and the average temperature. If you're not sure, it's a good idea to include it, because then when you look at the data, it'll make more sense what it is. Air temperature, the current beta version of the model doesn't actually do anything with these temperatures, the max and the min, but Peter has indicated that he's going to work on developing a little bit of an algorithm that'll help us build a far more accurate daily demand model, and it'll need those temperatures. So if you are getting data, it's not a bad idea just to get it all at the same time. Gives you a little bit of a review your order, input your email address. It remembers me, I've done this a few times. Submit order. There you go. This one's really neat. You just wait usually only a minute or two, and it arrives in your email inbox. Let's have a look at this file. So again, this is the same weather station downloaded from that US climate data online search website. And something I want to point out, it looks like they've got the total precipitation number, but I don't have rain split up separately from snow. Right? Here we go. Rain and precipitation and snow. It kind of looks to me like this website doesn't have the rainfall on its own. Just be aware of that. And if I didn't want the precipitation including snow, so here's a good indication that, you know, this number is 0.5. This is the snow in centimeters, right? And this is the precipitation in millimeters. I'd probably, if I was going to use this export and I can't get rain by itself, I'm going to have to actually add a column and possibly calculate what that is. Now, I'm on the Canadian Government Environment Canada website, and under this commonly asked FAQs about calculating the water equivalent of snow, it says that they actually melt the snow that they capture in snow gauges, and that's how they convert it to an equivalent amount in millimeters. But it says here, in many snow events, a ratio of 10:1 can be applied to the amount of snow. In other words, 1 centimeter of snow is equivalent to about 1 millimeter of water. So you could use that approximation if you had to take precipitation and snowfall and convert that into a rain-only number. And I thought that was really interesting, so I wanted to show that in the video here. So there's just some simple tips for getting and downloading data, usually in CSV files for both Canadian locations, US locations, and through that NOAA website. Many locations around the world, actually. And if there's a different website that you've used, that you like, that you find is easy to download data, it gives it in a format that it needs very little processing in order to put into the tool, please share it with us below.